Hello and welcome to possibly the last video I'll make on Planet Crafter. Although saying that, I've only ever really done 2 recordings and they were live broadcasts, but I've had immense fun with this game. Putting quite a few hours based on, some time off from work. And I really enjoyed it. And it's one of those ones where I'm basically at the end. So I'm just waiting for one little event to occur, which allows me the third entry in the 3 possible endings to this game. I believe there are 3 possible endings. So I'm going to hit the play button, and really what I'm going to show is just a look at my base. Really, we'll fly around probably some locations that were really nice and fun in the game. So it'll probably not be spoiler free. If you're stuck at something, you might want to continue to watch. If you're playing the game and want to learn nothing, definitely avoid this. But I hope you enjoyed anyway. I found it really fun, so let's hit play. My save, by the way, was called SETI Alpha 5. Anybody that watches Star Trek might recognize that name, but we'll hit load, and it should start off, I think, inside my base. Yep, there we go. I do need some food though, so let me just quickly go and get some food. And I've got plenty in here. There we go. And then we'll start off with just a little look around the base. So, this is my new base, and this is the base where all my production gets done. This is the base that I call second home, because if anybody's ever played this game will know that when you start off in this game, you start off crash landed with absolutely nothing, and it's only from learning about things and crafting that you get anywhere in this game. So I'm just going to sort of like show off where that starting location was and just hover over it. Just to familiarize myself, it was over here. And if you can imagine, when you first started this game, there was absolutely nothing going on. It was all no water whatsoever. Everything was red rock. So it was around about just here, I think. And we'll see if we can see any remnants of it. There it is. So I started off here. The whole planet was red. Nothing going on. You just had this crafting place and a load of resources on the floor. How things have changed. So, what was this game about? Well, the first thing that you had to think about is that you knew nothing about your backstory, and all you knew was you've crash landed, and it seems to be some sort of sentence. You've been put here because of a crime of a sort, and they will not let you off of the planet or look at your sentence unless you terraform this planet. And as soon as you hear the word terraforming, you know it's a survival game. And anything I know about survival games, the best thing for you to do is to think about higher ground. So that was quite low. The earlier the games, you looked around and you could see that there was something going on over here. This ship. All of this was red and nothing going on. And then basically over here was quite high up. So I instantly went up here just actually over here, actually. Saw where the lip of the land was and decided this was where I was going to build. Because what's going to happen is, as the planet terraforms, heat is going to melt the ice, rain is going to occur, and everything that's actually looks like a basin is going to fill with water. So I instantly moved my base up here and set up this little base here. And in here is where I've still got most of my stuff that I did early on. These boards became the most important thing that was going on in my life. And as you can see at the moment, it's got terraforming stages complete terraformation, which means that I've completed the game. These boards here told me everything that was going on and what I should be doing. Even now you can see oxygenization of the planet per minute, I think that is. Told me what I was supposed to be doing. So if I saw any of these figures not moving, then I needed to do something about it. So to generate heat, you put heaters in. To generate pressure, you drilled into the mantle of the crust of the planet. Oxygenization by just doing anything that you can to do with plants, grass, seeds, trees, and then of course the biomass goes up and terraformation occurs. Then I had to keep measuring how much power I had, and power in the early days was done by solar panels, which I've still got really at the back here. There you are. You didn't really have too much. So basically you used low cost elements to basically make up these solar panels and give yourself some power. But later on that power would become nuclear and you would need those less and less. The heat was done through heaters. My heaters are over here. There we go. Massive things. As you kept going or upgrading the terraformation of the planet, the more your tech level grew up, and you therefore grew bigger and bigger heaters, which required higher and higher elements and rocks and quartz and radiation to build. So these ones are sort of like the max power heaters. These ones are the tier below it. You can imagine at the very beginning the heaters look more like fires. You know, a fire that you'd have in your living room. And of course, when it comes to nuclear power, I started off with these small iridium nuclear power stations, which did give me an awful lot of power, but not enough really. And so pressure is done through drilling. Here are my drills, and you can see all of my drills now are the big massive drills. Take up an awful lot of space. Luckily they don't need all their legs on the ground to work. I don't think I've got any of the smaller ones left for me to actually show. So we'll just fly back. So after you've basically built some of the stuff that you need, you start moving things around to make the place look a little bit more attractive. This is the iridium cave, or should I say the radiation cave. This speckly effect is not water or anything. It's to indicate that it's a radiation shower. So that became a sort of like a beacon for me to actually do anything with. And in here was where I used to get all my iridium from, although iridium was something that I also needed. So I decided that I'd put my nuclear power station in here, just like having your own personal nuclear power station. So all of my power stations I built into a cave that you'd never see, and I put what they call a production optimizer in it. These production optimizers basically when you put them, they can actually optimize up to so many devices. I think this one is set to 9, and you can buy little fuses that basically boost things by so much percent. So in this one, look, I've got an energy multiplier fuse. It multiplies things by 150%, of which I've got 2 of those. The one in the middle really makes no difference whatsoever, because I'm not trying to increase the plants in the area. But at the end of the day, it will still boost that, if it's in there or not. So in here, look, you can see a pressure, energy, and plant again. The energy one is the one that's required. And so if these generated so much power, as you can see there, 222,750 kilowatts, 150%, and you've times it by this many that are in here, you can see I had a massive amount of power. And each of these power optimizers probably equated for me to have an extra 2. For 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's more like having 7. So I did that fairly late on in the game, but it's well worth doing using these optimizers. You'll tend to find that the other optimizers I've got are for growing Greenland. So once I've got my base sort of like semi-sorted, I started to build on water, because to be quite honest, there's no real gravity on this. It has got a physics engine, but it's, anybody who plays this game will know it snaps badly onto the ground, some slopes and all of that sort of stuff, but it never took away from the fun part of the game. So I started to build this as a storage locker, and then built on top of it as I kept going on and on and on. So the second one was my chemistry lab, and the top one was a bio lab. And I put this little storage locker out here for every time I went off on a little journey for myself. So these are the highest grade storage lockers that you can get. And when you click on them, you'll see what I mean. They actually have far more storage than the average grey locker, which I'll show you inside in a moment. And then when you move into here, the first thing you've got is a shredder unit. Now, a lot of people might think, what's the point of the shredder unit? But when you start ramping up production on this game, you will find that you're going to be getting lots and lots of stuff that you don't need, and you can't control it. So basically, it was great, because instead of having 3, 4, 5 lockers of stuff that you didn't really need, or just dropping it out of your pockets and letting it land on the floor, you could put it in the shredder and get rid of it. Much better solution, to be quite honest. So these are grouped into the early stages of stuff. So along here you've got iron, titanium, magnesium, silicon, and cobalt. If you click on them, you'll see that they're totally full, because basically a lot of my stuff now is automated. And then I'd have what they call an overflow container. This is what I was talking about when it came to the smaller containers. As you can see, it holds far less. And there are ones that are even smaller than that, which are like blue trunks, which you can just basically store about, I don't know, 15 items in. They're next to nothing these days. So the one thing that you needed to do in this game was basically keep your water, food, and oxygen levels up. Once you've terraformed the planet, you don't need to worry about oxygen. Once you get to a certain tech level, you can drink the water that the planet has created through oxidization, and the only thing you need to worry about therefore is food, and the food is still grown in the containers or in the farms. And hopefully the sun will come up and I'll be able to show you the farms in a moment. But if we just go down here, you'll see over here I created my area of quartz, which you need for huge things later on that you're going to be building. And then this is just a misc area. As we moved up through the elements here, look, I started to put in the alloys and rods that were needed in the game. So aluminium, as you know, is an alloy. Then there's a super alloy rods. Then some really hard to get hold of gems and things like obsidian and zeolite, which were in the very beginning of the game really difficult to find until you worked out where they were on the map. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Again, an overflow locker. And then later, right at the, by the way, sorry, over here was the radiation stuff, iridium, uranium. Right late game, I created the everything to do with creatures and chemistry. So this is where I put in all the wildlife. So here's the larvae, and uncommon larvae and rare larvae that you needed in the game to then use this DNA sequencer to make other types of creatures. So you'd need plankton and so forth, and mixtures of larvae to bring up different types of creatures. Most of them butterflies, but then you'd move on to fish, and later on frogs. And it gets even more a little bit later on after that. So this is the sequencer that would do that. Here's some aquarium tanks, and these were generating oxygen and eggs for me. So in here, you can see I've got two types of fish. Look at the animal multiplier they gave me was 500% and 350%, quite high up. But eventually you'll need domes to actually build, to actually get any type of oxygenization going. And here are the biodomes where I grew trees, and these generated bark. There we go, tree bark. So whenever I was doing this, I'd usually build one, but later on you'd find that you were building these in twos to ramp things up. So just like I've got a tree biome, I also had a butterfly biome. There we are. Same sort of thing. You put your larvae in. There's the multipliers, 1,200% and 1,400% in this one. And this would basically mass boost my insect rating. Some luminance ones in here. So 1,200 and 1,500 golden butterfly larvae. Yes, golden. Golden ones are really hard to get hold of. And just like anything with the trees and the butterflies, there is a fish one. Here we go. And here's where my fish are. I always thought this game looked really beautiful. So in here, look, I've got some sort of fish eggs. And you can even swim with them if you want. There you go. Oh, look lovely. So that was my base. Now you can build ladders and things that takes you up to your second tier. I tended to was going to do that later on, but I never really got round to it. But being as I've got a jetpack, I just jetpack up. There we go. But I could have put a ladder there, look, and it would have come up here, and it would have been seamless. So this then became my eating area. This is where I was growing things, sort of like semi-farms, but inside. But these soon become too slow. Really too slow, because you're going to need recipes not only to feed yourself, but to build recipes for other things. So you start building what they call outdoor farms, and they're over here. So you can see I've got some farms here, look, for squash and cocoa and wheat, and I've got some for the same over here. And again, these things generate all sorts of abilities for you later on. There we are, energy, plants, insects, and growth again. And that's all required for you to do some cooking, which is all done at my cooking station. So you can see in here, look, I've got some stuff. So let's make some chocolate. Look, I'll move the cocoa over here. Move to the stove. Make some cocoa. There we are. And then put that into my special area for cocoa. There we go. Chocolate, should I say. And then put the cocoa back. You do the same for wheat. There we go. Take that. And then put that back in here. There we go. So you can see I've got a little bit of a production station going on. And then when you've got the basics of flour and chocolate, you can incorporate these into making better things like cookies, cakes, all sorts. But you will need other things like fish, honey, etc., etc. So this is where you're going to start then putting in special food containers. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. This little workstation was a godsend. But as I was exploring more, I tended to find I didn't really need 2 or 3 of them, but it's probably wise to do so. This is a silkworm container. You put silkworm in, it generates silk, and then basically, if I go over here, you'll probably find my container's totally filled, and it is. There we are. So I could start a production line of making things out of material. And then this is sort of like an automated plant for building things. So this is where I put all of the life stuff like bacteria and mutagens together. I put my explosive power, sulfur, high quality food, all of that sort of stuff. And it was all generated by this one machine. This one machine became a godsend later on, because I don't have to keep going to a workstation and building these things. All I needed to do was click on this panel, and you can see that everything in its vicinity is open to itself, so it knows all of the ingredients of all of these lockers. Click on here, and I could then basically make what I wanted to make. So if I wanted bacteria, which would require water and algae, I click on that and it will make it. There we are, automatically. Bang, 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 like that. When it gets to the end, it can't make any more until something happens, like you coming along and storing it somewhere. Okay, this is where the automation comes in. So outside here, I developed a droid plant. Again, you could probably build 1 or 2 of these, but these did all the laborious fetching and carrying for me. So basically you can see some of these things are just not working at the moment because there's nothing for them to get. I've got just about everything that I need. But looking at the map, you can see the droids are going out collecting bacteria, water, and everything else that I need for my plant, which then gives me money or so forth. Now, this is really, really important because you need money a little bit later on, because there is a rocket plant over here where you get stuff for trade. So I'm just going to take you over to the rocket platform. And here is what they call the trading platform. It's gone off at the moment. But if I click on here, I can't show you, look, because I've got to wait 150 seconds. You put all of your stuff that you want to sell, blast it off, and it comes back with tokens. So another good way of actually getting stuff, because it also told the company that you were terraforming, and they sent you tokens back. Absolutely brilliant. The last dome is at the top there. Just get some food again. There we go. Get some water. There we go. Because this was the workstation that I was talking about for where you wanted to make special things. But those auto crafters really did help an awful lot. So what else can I sort of like show you? So above is just the last sort of like biodome. It's where the early stuff was being shown. This was sort of like a tech tree that told you that each time you reached a certain level, you'd be able to build something. So here was the biomass look, and each time I reached a certain level, I would get something like a plant rocket, an algae generator, etc, etc. They unlocked as I was going along. I've got absolutely everything now, so of course there's nothing really to show you here. But every single thing, all the blueprints were listed in here. And they all had X's through them until you reached a certain level. So you can imagine at the very beginning it was a T2 backpack. Then I got a better solar panel. Then I got a better backpack. Then another better solar panel. Then a better container. Then an advanced crafting station. And it goes on and on and on. And as I increased my oxygen, I got better heaters, better oxygen tanks, better containers to generate vegetables, etc, etc. When it comes to heat, these would be more drills and heaters. And I believe that's my rocket just returning. If I have a little look up in the air, there it is coming down. So we might as well go back over there. Here it comes. And like I say, because it's now empty, it's waiting now for me to fill it again. This is how much you could actually send up. And these are the things that they want. So they want things like quartz and rocket engines and cookies and so forth. And they all give you sort of like sort of money. And these are the things that you can order, which are things that you can't unlock on the planet. So at the moment you can see I've got quite a low number, look, 78,000 at the moment. When it comes to credits, but you can sort of like set up a production line. If you look down here, you'll see that one of them is bacteria, for which the trade value is 6 teratokens. So what I tended to do was, in the very early days, was generate an automatic plant for getting bacteria. So this is why you'll see these drones moving. So in here I set up a container, a replicator that made the bacteria. So you can see it's got the stuff there. This would then be transferred into a container here, and I would set this up so that it would supply bacteria to that rocket, and when that rocket then gets filled, it would automatically blast off, and I would need to do nothing. So all that was needed was the droids needed to self pick up algae from these containers. So it needs algae and water, and that would then tell this crafting station to make bacteria, put it into this container, and then send it off to my rocket. And I did this all from this plant area here. So we're just going to, there's a storm going on at the moment. It's a meteorite storm, so we'll just weather that out. I used to love looking at these storms from the tops of my buildings. So I used to go up here and just have a little look, see them come down. Be careful though, because they can hit you. But it was great following them coming down. Bang. Never did any damage to the trees or anything, really. They look worse than they actually are. There we are, look, that's hit the radiation plants. That looks like it's coming pretty close to me. That landed over there. So what I used to do then was just go over where the impact was and just see what they dropped off, and it was these light storms are all just basic elements, But there were better storms later on that gave you super alloy, which is brilliant. So as I continued to grow, I started to make grass and flower spreaders. That's what these are. And as my insects were growing, I started to put butterfly baths down and amphibious baths down as well for frogs. They're over here. There we go. And they would increase the insect level and plant level of my planet. So I'd put in an abundance of different ones. I think there's a golden one over here somewhere. That's a blue one. Anyway, that's that. And then one very important aspect is your bees. So I would make up these bee colonies, starting off with just generating honey. They then later on gave you larvae and honey, so they would actually produce both. These are filled with larvae at the moment, and I think it's because I filled up everything I can with larvae, but you can see it's actually supposed to be generating honey. So that larvae would then be taken to my lab, and that would aid with me generating creatures. What I needed to do then was get to the mammal stage. The mammal stage is the most interesting at the end of the day. So we head back to the lab, which is on the first floor. Stupid me. And I would use 3 bits of equipment, basically. And they are here. So this is the DNA manipulator. So I would take that larvae. So let's just take one, shall we, from a container. Yeah, we'll take just a standard larvae there. Put it into the sequencer. Hit the extract. And it would give me a trait, a generic trait. You can see here, look, it says, insert this into a synthesizer to create a new creature. Generic trait information, it's a number 1, so it's next to nothing. It's very, very small trait. You then sequence this like DNA here. So you'd put in what type of creature, what base color it uses at the top, base color at the bottom, whether it's got any types of stripe patterns on it, what size it is, whether it's glowing luminance, whatever. And when you hit then the create button, it would come up with a cylinder. I don't know if I could put these in, look, because I don't think I've got what I need. There we are, look. So you put them in like that, and it would then generate them. And then once you've generated that, you would take it to your shelter that you've created. So you build a shelter, go over to your shelter area, plonk them into here. There they are. And it would make the creature that you actually designed. And if you have a little look, here's some of the creatures that I designed. They're all sort of like pretty much fully grown now. But they're mostly like lizards and llamas. Most of them are luminant, so I can see them. Look, there's a sort of semi-horse type one. I used to give them names, but I ran out after a while. And that was pretty much my base. I built up some water containers, some algae collectors, because in the early days I was picking up plankton or bacteria or algae from here, and just like my friend Steve, I was so hated things not being flat on the earth. I built underground, but you don't need to do that. So I sort of like gave in as I was being pushed into getting further and further into the game. But as you can see, it's very beautiful looking. And as darkness came in, you had to really think about lights. So I started to put in some light boxes and beacons. There's a beacon, look. It's there. But always remember that you're always looking at your power in this game. And everything looks absolutely lovely. There's the radiation cave. Over there is the maze, which is what they call the maze section. And over there are the areas of shipwrecks, deserts, which later on become paradise vistas. Really, really nice. I'm just waiting really for the sun to come back up. I don't think there's anything else to show you over here. This is very much like a Sims type game, so like a Barbie and Ken. So as you progress in this game, you'll pick up things which basically are rewards. So here's all the trophies that I got from my golden trunk sort of like containers that I found out. So 6, 12, 18, 21 of 25 I found. So like I say, again, near the end. And I started to put up my butterfly rack and fish rack. But again, never got that completed. I might do that before I finish the whole thing off. And then I did start to put in some furnishings. You know, this sofa, a table. But in the end, I never got round to finishing it off because I was more interested in the game. And you can see Dawn's just come back up. So then I can sort of like show you the rest of the land, really. Now, moving around on jetpack. It's fast, but not fast enough. Anybody that plays this game knows that when you got the jetpack, you went, yay, look at this, and whoa, how fast I'm going. And then you later on went, oh, but I want to go faster. I've got to get over to this area. It's taken ages and ages and ages. And so later on, you built what they call a teleporter. And it uses a heck of a lot of resources. So what you'd do is you'd carry the parts that require this teleporter. You'd hit the button and you can then basically go to areas that you visited. So a very early advanced area that you wanted to go to was the lava area. So if I click on lava, it would take me instantly to the lava area where I could then pick up the resources for this area. Look at that. Lovely. As I say, this was what they call a very quick access. So I could go to the Rainbow Caves, another area that I found later on. These are the caves underground that I found. You can see that I came in through the top, floated down here, and this is where I was getting my quartz from. Very beautiful looking game. Lots of pop-in. It needs some optimization, but basically it's a beautiful looking game. And then there would be the crater. That was a biome that I found later on. Here's the crater. Look, and you can see why it's called the crater. This was absolutely full of just dust when I came here the first time. And then, as of course, the planet terraformed. It got moss and everything else. And again, a secret that was occurring was down there. I found a bunker. There was one as well at the ground there. So that was the crater. There's the ring ship, which everybody knows about when they first join this game, because you can see it from just about every direction. But there was the ring ship. It was basically, I think, a warp gate in space that crash landed. So this was something that you went to an awful lot at the beginning of the game. So that was the ring ship. And this is near the sulfur fields. So you can see here, this is another area. When you went through the radiation area, you came out and there was this sulfur area. And this was really, really good earlier on. And then from the sulfur fields, I went to what I call Paradise Valley. This was a lovely area as well. Recognizable from these rings. This was again all grey, just rocks when you first came here. These are just well-known locations. Iceland's is no longer Iceland's anymore. It's actually a green, lush area of waterfalls. But behind every waterfall, you'll tend to find something. Here we go. So we go past this cave. And down here, there is a lovely wreck that you find late game, which you have to blow up with explosives. So that was brilliant. The last one I did, I think, was the Ancient Paradise. Now, this is the Wardens game. So the Wardens are the alien creatures that were here before we even turned up. And their story culminates sort of just around here. And then we go back to home. And we're back at the base. And like I say, just to give you an indication of how long it takes to get to these places. Just get some water. If I fly to the irradiation fields.
Are you busy?
From the irradiation fields, you fly through here, past my nuclear power plant and my extractions, and you'd come up at a sulfur area, which is where I was getting all my sulfur from. And if you kept flying through, you'd get to that sulfur waterfall that I talked about. So instead of having to keep flying, I put my little transporter up there, and I could then get to the back end of this cave a lot quicker. Because otherwise you had to memorize where all the caves were. So I know to the right of this here, this extractor, there's another cave here, and this is where I was getting me I think it was Omia, what's it called? What it's called now. That's it, osmium. And that took me up to the very first wreck. So you can imagine when you were first playing this game, you'd come up to this wreck, and if you were eagle-eyed, you'd notice that there was a cave. Although it was covered in ice at first. But as soon as that ice melted, bang, there you were. And then, of course, this grew as your plants grew. So as my trees started to grow, this whole wall split apart and showed me a new biome. What they call them biomes. And this was a shortcut to the waterfall cavern. You can see why it's called the waterfall cavern. Just full of lovely, lush waterfalls. And you really had to keep an eye on things, you know, to make sure that you weren't missing anything, because otherwise you'd miss beautiful sights like this, which is the Mushroom Cavern. And this is where the Warden story really started. This is where you learn about the alien technology that was around. Of course, you never knew whether this stuff was okay to drink or not, but it generally is. You certainly learn when you can't. But this is the Mushroom Cavern. This is where the Warden story started. Like I say, you just learn the tricks of this game. You learn about all different areas where you should be mining. Put your ore extractors down here and you will get aluminium. Over there you'll get radiation, you'll get iridium and uranium. Other ones where you can get quartz and so forth. So here's an area that you could put down a mining station down, and basically just mine the elements that come up through this particular area. And then we've got what they call the wrecks, and we love the wrecks, don't we? Those are the things where we got all our technology from at the beginning. So we would fly up to this very first ship up here. And just basically explore it to death, trying to get technology out of it. So we would fly in and basically just totally ransack it. And as you can see, I've scrubbed everything from here. Eventually you'd come across nuclear stations here that when you put the power fuse in, it would energize all the doors, and you would then be able to open up the doors that were initially closed. Absolutely brilliant. The only thing about that, every single one of these places, wrecks, you just got lost. And just to give you an indication of how lost you can be, I'm going to show you this portal generator as soon as I get some food. So, just get some food from here. There we go. And you built what they call a portal generator. Now this takes you to further areas that you can't get to with your jetpack because you've got no way of space travel. So basically you scanned for areas that were further abreast and then basically fly to them through this portal. And this took you to wrecks where you'd get even higher equipment from. So you can see this one's a coral world. Wow. And what you do is you looked around looking for the spaceship to harvest. Not the easiest sometimes thing to actually do is find where it is. It's over there. So there's my portal. And the thing I want is up here, I think. There it is. And as you can see, they got far more intricate later on. There we go. There's the start of the maze. So you can tell it's getting dark. Turn your lamp on. Go down. And now you will get nowhere without using flares. So you can see I haven't been here actually for all yet. I think I just opened up the door. And there'll be blocked entrances that I need explosives for. Full of stuff all over the shop. What we got in here? Oh, we'll have that. We'll have that. We'll have that. We'll have that. Basically, this is what you do. You just ransack the lot. Just keep going down, getting everything, trying to map it out, but you do not get lost. That's the thing. So this is where you'd need flares. I don't think I've got one. No, I haven't got one on me. Let's see if I can get one out of a trunk. They're bound sure to be a trunk early on. So if we just remember that we went right. And then left. So right, then left. That's all. Oh, there we go. Always take these tokens. There's an explosive that we want. Unfortunately, no flare, but I've got an explosive. Oh, another one. Flare! Brilliant. So now I can sort of like tell you how flares work. So remember I told you we went right then left. So we're going to go all the way back. And then it was right, wasn't it? See, already messing up. So you can see this is the ladder that gets you to the beginning. The first thing you'd want to do is you'd want to get to a crossway between 2 points and drop your flare. There we go. so that when you come back on yourself, you know where you were. Because I tell you what, it's the only way you're going to get around in this game. So we did see some rocks at the beginning. Let's see if I can remember where they were. There they were. So the way that the explosives work, you put this down like that. Stand away from it. Click on it once. Set it. And then move out of its way. And then you'll be able to move forward from there. That's how the explosives work. There we are. There's my flare. And then when you finished, you came back up. And you want to look for the little pink beacon by moving your sights around until you see a sort of a circle. You might have to stand up or get higher up. Point. There it is. Look down there. Because that takes you home. There we are. And that takes me back to my place that I call home. And there's all my family waiting to greet me. And that's pretty much the game. I love this game. I played this for hours. Probably the bargain of the year so far for me. I had it for ages without actually playing it. When it got to version 1.0, I then really played it a lot. And I was then instantly hooked. But my advice is, if this looks interesting to you, please get it. It really is a great game. And it's a shame that I'm leaving it. But I'm going to end the recording there and just say salute. Hope you found this very interesting. And hope you look out for other Delboy videos from me. I'll be doing more game stuff. At the moment, I've been doing a few related things, but I'm into all things nostalgia. So with that, I'm going to say salute and see you on the next one. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.